Hey, so my name is Tanisha Newman. For those who don't know me, most of my friends and my family, they call me Ella. I'm doing this video to give my family back home in Jamaica an update on the different procedures that I'll be doing in order to get rid of my cancer cells. About 3 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. So I'll give you a brief story on how I found out that I had breast cancer. So December of last year, I felt slight pains around my nipple area on my right breast, but I didn't take it as anything, being as it was close to around the time that I would get my periods, and normally when I get my periods, those are some of the symptoms that I would feel. In January, felt the same pains, still didn't take it as being anything. Um, February, it got a bit more intense, and I started to worry what it was. A friend of mine told me, um, why not do a self check? And normally I'd visit the doctor like every 6 months, and he would do like a full body examinations. So I decided to do a self check before going to the doctor. So I did. I actually did this self check in March of this year. Um, when I did it, I felt a small lump, and I was thinking to myself, this wasn't there before. So I decided that I would see the doctor. I didn't end up going to the doctor till the first week of April. When I went to the doctor, my original doctor wasn't there, but there was another doctor filling in for him. So I went, I explained to him what I was feeling, how long I was feeling the pains, and what um, what were the different changes that I felt in my right breast as opposed to my left breast, because I did the self check on both of them. So he did his own examination, and he was like, "Oh yes, I felt the lump there as well." So he gave me he did both breasts too. So he squeezed the right nipple to see if any discharge was coming out of it. A clear liquid came out, and he said, being as it was clear, it didn't seem as anything um, dangerous. So I he gave me a paper to do an ultrasound. I did the ultrasound the same week after seeing the doctor, and I brought back the ultrasound the following week. When I got back to the doctor, my original doctor was there the following week. So I explained what I told the first doctor, and I gave him the ultrasound results. I photocopied the results, and I read it myself. So the results said mastitis, and no abscess, no no mass. So he did his own check on it, but when I got to my original doctor, it had started bleeding, because the day after I did the ultrasound, I realized that um, bloody discharge was coming from the right nipple. So I explained that to him. I told him I was seeing that from the week before, and it was an on and off thing. So he said, okay, he'll give me some antibiotics and some painkillers, and that would clear it up. So I did the antibiotics and the painkillers for 7 days. Also, I had another complication. In further videos, I'll explain to you and show you what that was. So I did the antibiotics for the 7 days, and throughout that 7 days it was still bleeding, and once the painkillers wore off, I would still feel the pains. So I went back after that medication was finished. I went back to the doctor, explained to him, I told him still feeling the pains, still seeing the bloody discharge and everything. So he said he'd give me another dose of antibiotics, which ought to clear it up, and if not, if that did not work, then they'd have to slit it and let whatever was inside drain out, because that was the problem. So the way he explained it to me, I did not see it as being anything technical or serious. So I did the other dosage of antibiotics and the painkillers. When those were completed, still feeling the pain, it was still bleeding. But by this time, it's around that's around like ending of April, May. The pain got more excruciating. Um, after the last antibiotics, he said it felt smaller to him, but to me it felt bigger, like it was growing. So he said I would do another ultrasound 2 weeks after that visit. I said fine, and he had to watch it, and based on the other complication, to decide whether or not they were going to cut it. So went home, had a talk with my mom on the phone. She was saying, how can they decide to cut something that they don't really know what it is, and what is mastitis? So I was like, I'm not really sure either. So went and I said, let me look it up. My mom said, I think you should get a second opinion from a next doctor before planning on doing anything with regards to your breast. So I said, okay. If you know me, you know that I'm self-employed, and most of the products that I sell for my business, I get it in the United States. So I decided I would just run up, see a doctor, get a few stuff for my business, and then come back down. So I booked a ticket, came up in July, came up the 18th of July, and when I got here, the night I got here, like the pains got really intense. So normally they'd ask me on a scale of 1 to 10 how bad the pain was. I would say 8 or a 9. So I came up the 18th, the night, the pains, I could not sleep. So the next morning I got up and I went to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, I explained to the nurses what was the emergency, told them that I was feeling pains, where I was feeling the pains. So they processed me, and I waited until I saw other nurses that did blood pressure and everything. Based on the complications that I had, they took me to like a private room. They did blood work. They did blood work, blood pressure, and all of that. So I stayed there and I waited on the doctor. I was there. I was in that room from about 1 in the day to roughly about 8 in the night, before I saw a doctor, but there were several nurses that came up and they checked on me, checked my blood pressure, ensured that I was okay, all of that. The nurses were really nice. So waited about 10. So by this time I was thinking, okay, I would be admitted because it was in the night. So about 10, a doctor came. I explained it to him again, what it was, and I also told him that I had a photocopy of the ultrasound that I had done in Jamaica. He said, that's okay. I didn't have to show him that ultrasound because they would do their own ultrasound there. Um, he checked it. He said it was kind of odd that it was oozing bloody discharge. So they do an ultrasound. Then I would see um, one of the surgeons from birth clinic, and then we take it from there. So um, the next morning I got up, went to the lab, did an ultrasound in the same hospital, and after doing the ultrasound, went back to the room that I was, waited on the surgeons. The surgeons didn't come till um, around midday, and the one that came, he said he wanted to get a second opinion from his senior, from a senior doctor. So I waited again for another doctor to come. He came, he examined it, and he said they'd get the surgeons from the birth clinic to come back and do a biopsy. They asked me if I wanted to do the biopsy there at the hospital or at the birth clinic, and I said it was fine, I would do it where I was. So it wasn't until Sunday morning before I did the biopsy. So when the surgeons came, I asked them if by doing the biopsy, if whatever was oozing out would drain out and the pains that I was feeling would stop. So he said if the fluid inside the breast was the reason I was feeling pains, the bigger needle biopsy would drain it out and I would get some relief. So he did a small needle biopsy. Much wasn't coming out through the with the small needle biopsy, so they did a small incision on the right breast and did a bigger needle biopsy. Um, what was inside, drained it out. They took samples of that fluid. They took samples of the tissues in the lump, and they took samples of outer part of my skin. The nurses told me that the doctor said it was fine for me to go home in an hour's time, so I could get dressed. So I went home. Upon leaving the hospital, they told me that the birth clinic would contact me. So I went home. The birth clinic contacted me, and they told me, they gave me an appointment for the 8th of August, which is this year. And while waiting on my appointment, that same week they called me the Wednesday and asked me if I could come in to the breast clinic. I was like, sure, fine. So I went there. They said the biopsy wasn't completed, but they did test on the blood or the liquid that was coming out of the breast, and they saw abnormal cells. And normally when you find abnormal cells, it is cancer cells. I still wasn't worried, still wasn't nervous, because I was like, the biopsy that would tell exactly what it was wasn't out as yet, so I wasn't worried. So they told me worst case scenarios, the plans that I would have to make. So I went went home, told my mom what they said, and a few of my family members. Um, Still waiting on the date that they gave me to come back. However, they called me back the following week. But when they called me, they asked me to visit the cancer center. Now, when they asked me to visit the cancer center on the same hospital, I got nervous because I was like, why would they give me the why would they give me the why would they give me the result at a cancer center and not from one of the doctors? So I was asked to speak to one of the oncologists. So I went for the appointment, saw the oncologist. When I went in there, um, it greeted me nice, politely, smiled and everything. And she said to me, well, Miss Newman, I'm sorry to tell you, but it is breast cancer. For a minute or so, I kind of zoned out. And she was like, are you okay? Do you want a minute? Is there anything that you want to ask me, you want to talk to me about? So I wasn't speaking, so she said, all right, okay, the kind of breast cancer that you have is called triple negative, and it only responds to chemo treatment. So right then and there, my heart dropped. So I sat there for a while, started to get emotional, and she consoled me, and she said, it's not a death sentence. There are treatments that you can get to get rid of this, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Another nurse came in, they talked to me, they asked me if I had any concerns, if I wanted to call anybody, if I wanted to talk to anybody. Right then and there, calling or talking to anybody was the last thing on my mind. The only thing that kept running through my head was like my two daughters that I left back home. So they told me what the different appointments that I would have to make, and the follow-up. So I told them okay, went home, called my mother, told her what it was, and a few friends and a few family members. She was like, how can it be breast cancer when they said, and with the word negative in it? So I'm saying that's just the terminology for that kind of breast cancer. I told her I was gonna sleep a bit and then call her back. So I made my other appointments, did I did more ultrasounds on the same breast and the right breast. I did an echo to see if my heart was okay, MRI for my brain and spine, and an ultrasound on my liver, just to ensure that the cancer had not spread anywhere else. Thankfully, it didn't. The echo that I did was to ensure that my heart was okay, so I could put in the chemo port, because I'll be getting the chemo through a port. Hence the bandages that you see here. So this is where my chemo port was put in, and this is where I'll be getting the chemo through. This was done a week ago, and my chemo treatment will be starting this week. So I basically wanted to do these videos so I could show everyone, because it gets really emotional telling, because everybody has their own reaction um, to my diagnosis. Some people are supportive, some people are emotional, and then it kind of takes a toll on me. So doing these videos, whoever is interested, they can go and watch it, and I wouldn't have to like tell everybody like this is what's being done, this is how it's being done. Um, my I haven't told my youngest daughter, but I have told my oldest. She got emotional. I had to tell her it's okay. I'm getting treatment, and it's something that can be rectified. So that's basically what I'm doing here. Um, I really miss them. I've never been to the United States and stayed more than 3 weeks. And looking at it now and seeing the different um, procedures that I would have to do, it seems it's going to take a while. So I'm really, you know, I'm here, I'm thinking about my health, I'm thinking about their well-being. So all of that, it really really gets to you. So I'm trying my best to be strong for me, for them, and to fight through and get through this. Another reason for me doing these videos is to, give persons going through a similar situation, or maybe thinking of different ways to prevent breast cancer. So I did these videos because I'll basically show the steps, I'll show the things that I have to change, things that I have to give up, and hopefully it will be helpful to someone else. And everybody has their different perspective of illness. A lot of persons tend not to share. Um, if you truly know me, you know I'm a very private person, but it really gets overwhelming telling everyone this is the process, this is the procedure, this is what I'm going to do today, this is what I'm going to get. Different persons. So by making the videos, they can go ahead and watch and get an idea. You understand? Also, persons can comment their views, their perspective on breast cancer or any form of cancer, and the counselors that I spoke to, they say sharing and talking about it really helps emotionally. So along with the treatments and everything, I will be changing my diet. I basically start changing my diet. Be changing my diet. I'll be putting in exercise in my daily routines, things to help fight this cancer. So hopefully this was helpful to somebody. You can like, you can share, you can comment, you can ask me questions. I'll try my best as possible to answer as many questions as I can while I'm in the process, while I'm researching things that can help me. So, you know, hopefully this was helpful to somebody. this 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 is this is really a journey, you know, like an eye opener for me, because back in Jamaica I was like, you know, trying to make a life, trying to survive, all of that. You don't really stop and think that, yeah, you can have breast cancer. So this is really an eye opener. But I put my faith, I put my trust in God, and I know He will see me through. Most persons call me, they're like, oh, give your life to the Lord and tell Him that um, if He sees you through this, you'll serve Him forever. And I don't want to be hypocritical, and I I think any commitment that I'm going to make to God, it's, I wouldn't say long term. I would say it it's it would be a lifetime. So not because my judgment is clouded right now, I I'm gonna rush into a commitment. When I do decide to, it will be for a lifetime. So I know my faith in God. I know He will see me through. Um, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the worst of sinners. God answers and He hears everybody's prayer as long as you're genuine and sincere. That's what I think. So, you know, I'm hopeful. I'm praying, and this is my journey.